Take Antoninus as your model always. His energy in doing what was rational, his steadiness in any situation, his sense of reverence, his calm expression, his gentleness, his modesty, his eagerness to grasp things, and how he never let things go before he was sure he had examined them thoroughly, understood them perfectly. The way he put up with unfair criticism without returning it, how he couldn't be hurried, how he wouldn't listen to informers, how reliable he was as a judge of character and of actions, not prone to backbiting or cowardice or jealousy or empty rhetoric, content with the basics, in living quarters, bedding, clothes, food, servants. How hard he worked, how much he put up with. His ability to work straight through till dusk. Because of his simple diet, he didn't even need to relieve himself except at set times. His constancy and reliability as a friend. His tolerance of people who openly questioned his views and his delight at seeing his ideas improved on. His piety, without a trace of superstition, so that when your time comes, your conscience will be as clear as his. Just as the arena and the other spectacles weary you, you've seen them all before, and the repetition grates on your nerves, so too with life. The same things, the same causes on all sides. How much longer? Our lives are short. The only rewards of our existence here are an unstained character and unselfish acts. Remember, matter, how tiny your share of it. Time, how brief and fleeting your allotment of it. Fate, how small a role you play in it. Existence flows past us like a river. The what is in constant flux. The why has 1,000 variations. Nothing is stable, not even what's right here. The infinity of past and future gapes before us, a chasm whose depths we cannot see. So it would take an idiot to feel self-importance or distress, or any indignation either, as if the things that irritate us lasted. Keep in mind how fast things pass by and are gone, those that are now and those to come. People who are excited by posthumous fame forget that the people who remember them will soon die too, and those after them in turn, until their memory, passed from one to another like a candle flame, gutters and goes out. But suppose that those who remembered you were immortal and your memory undying. What good would it do you? And I don't just mean when you're dead, but in your own lifetime. What use is praise except to make your lifestyle a little more comfortable? You're out of step, neglecting the gifts of nature to hand on someone's words in the future. You've seen that. Now look at this. Don't be disturbed. Uncomplicate yourself. Someone has done wrong. To himself. Something happens to you. Good. It was meant for you by nature, woven into the pattern from the beginning. Life is short. That's all there is to say. Unrestrained moderation words once in common use now sound archaic, and the names of the famous dead as well. Camillus, Caeso, Felicis, Dentatus, Scipio and Cato, Augustus, Hadrian and Antoninus, and everything fades so quickly, turns into legend, and soon oblivion covers it. And those are the ones who shone. The rest, unknown, unasked for a minute after death. What is eternal fame? Emptiness. Then what should we work for? Only this, proper understanding, unselfish action, truthful speech. A resolve to accept whatever happens as necessary and familiar, flowing like water from that same source and spring. Everything is transitory, the knower and the known. What follows coheres with what went before, not like a random catalog whose order is imposed upon it arbitrarily, but logically connected. And just as what exists is ordered and harmonious, what comes into being betrays an order too. Not a mere sequence, but an astonishing concordance. Remember Heraclitus. When earth dies, it becomes water, water, air, air, fire, and back to the beginning. those who have forgotten where the road leads. They are at odds with what is all around them, the all-directing logos, and they find alien what they meet with every day. Our words and actions should not be like those of sleepers, for we act and speak in dreams as well, or of children copying their parents, doing and saying only what we have been told. Our inward power, when it obeys nature, reacts to events by accommodating itself to what it faces, to what is possible. It needs no specific material. It pursues its own aims as circumstances allow. It turns obstacles into fuel. As a fire overwhelms what would have quenched a lamp, what's thrown on top of the conflagration is absorbed, consumed by it, and makes it burn still higher. Body, soul, mind, sensations, the body, desires, the soul, reasoning, the mind. To experience sensations, even grazing beasts do that. To let your desires control you, even wild animals do that, and rutting humans and tyrants. To make your mind your guide to what seems best, even people who deny the gods do that. Even people who betray their country, even people who do behind closed doors. If all the rest is common coin, then what is unique to the good man? To welcome with affection what is sent by fate, not to stain or disturb the spirit within him with a mess of false beliefs. Instead, to preserve it faithfully by calmly obeying God, saying nothing untrue, doing nothing unjust. And if the others don't acknowledge it, this life lived with simplicity, humility, cheerfulness, he doesn't resent them for it, and isn't deterred from following the road where it leads, to the end of life, an end to be approached in purity, in serenity, in acceptance, in peaceful unity with what must be.
They don't realize how much is included in stealing, sowing, buying, resting, seeing to business, not with the eyes but another kind of sight.
A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Simplicity, patience, compassion. These three are your greatest treasures. Simple in actions and thoughts, you return to the source of being. Patient with both friends and enemies, you accord with the way things are. Compassionate toward yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. I must say a word about fear. It is life's only true opponent. Only fear can defeat life. It is a clever, treacherous adversary, how well I know. It has no decency, respects no law or convention, and shows no mercy. It goes for your weakest spot, which it finds with unnerving ease. It begins in your mind, always, so you must fight hard to express it. You must fight hard to shine the light of words upon it, because if you don't, if your fear becomes a wordless darkness that you avoid, perhaps even manage to forget, you open yourself to further attacks of fear because you never truly fought the opponent who defeated you. It's unfortunate that this has happened. No. It's fortunate that this has happened, and I've remained unharmed by it, not shattered by the present or frightened of the future. It could have happened to anyone, but not everyone could have remained unharmed by it. Why treat the one as a misfortune rather than the other as fortunate? Can you really call something a misfortune that doesn't violate human nature? Or do you think something that's not against nature's will can violate it? But you know what its will is. Does what's happened keep you from acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness, and all the other qualities that allow a person's nature to fulfill itself? So remember this principle when something threatens to cause you pain. The thing itself was no misfortune at all. To endure it and prevail is great good fortune. Prayer of the Athenians. Zeus, rain down on the land and fields of Athens. Either no prayers at all, or one as straightforward as that. What am I doing with my soul? Interrogate yourself to find out what inhabits your so-called mind and what kind of soul you have now. A child's soul, an adolescent's, a woman's, a tyrant's soul, the soul of a predator, or its prey. No one could ever accuse you of being quick-witted. All right, but there are plenty of other things you can't claim you haven't got in you. Practice the virtues you can show: honesty, gravity, endurance, austerity, resignation, abstinence, patience, sincerity, moderation, seriousness, high-mindedness. Don't you see how much you have to offer, beyond excuses like can't, and yet you still settle for less? Or is it some inborn condition that makes you whiny and grasping and obsequious, makes you complain about your body and curry favor, and show off and leaves you so turbulent inside? No. You could have broken free a long way back, and then you would have been only a little slow, not so quick on the uptake. And you need to work on that as well. That slowness, not something to be ignored, let alone to prize. Yesterday a blob of semen, tomorrow embalming fluid, ash. To pass through this brief life as nature demands, to give it up without complaint, like an olive that ripens and falls, praising its mother, thanking the tree it grew on. Get what you can from the present, thoughtfully, justly.
Another way to grasp what ordinary people mean by goods. Suppose you took certain things as touchstones of goodness: prudence, self-control, justice, and courage, say. If you understood goods as meaning those, you wouldn't be able to follow that line about so many goods. It wouldn't make any sense to you. Whereas if you'd internalized the conventional meaning, you'd be able to follow it perfectly. You'd have no trouble seeing the author's meaning and why it was funny. Which shows that most people do acknowledge a distinction. Otherwise, we wouldn't recognize the first sense as jarring and reject it automatically, whereas we accept the second, the one referring to wealth and the benefits of celebrity and high living, as amusing and apropos. Now go a step further. Ask yourself whether we should accept as goods and should value the things we have to think of to have the line make sense, the ones whose abundance leaves their owner with no place to shit. Things have no hold on the soul. They have no access to it, cannot move or direct it. It is moved and directed by itself alone. It takes the things before it and interprets them as it sees fit. Don't let yourself forget how many doctors have died after furrowing their brows over how many deathbeds. How many astrologers after pompous forecasts about others' ends. How many philosophers after endless disquisitions on death and immortality. How many warriors after inflicting thousands of casualties themselves. How many tyrants after abusing the power of life and death atrociously, as if they were themselves immortal. How many whole cities have met their end: Helike, Pompeii, Herculaneum, and countless others, and all the ones you know yourself, one after another. One who laid out another for burial and was buried himself, and then the man who buried him, all in the same short space of time. In short, know this: human lives are brief and trivial. You can live here as you expect to live there, and if they won't let you, you can depart life now and forfeit nothing. If the smoke makes me cough, I can leave. What's so hard about that? Until things reach that point, I'm free. No one can keep me from doing what I want, and I want what is proper to rational beings living together. Why do other souls, unskilled, untrained, disturb the soul with skill and understanding? And which is that? The one that knows the beginning and the end, and knows the logos that runs through all things and that assigns to all a place, each in its allotted span, throughout the whole of time.
I was once a fortunate man, but at some point fortune abandoned me. But true good fortune is what you make for yourself. Good fortune, good character, good intentions, and good actions. Nature is pliable, obedient, and the logos that governs it has no reason to do evil. It knows no evil, does none, and causes harm to nothing. It dictates all beginnings and all endings, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Cold or warm, tired or well-rested, despised or honored, dying or busy with other assignments. Because dying too is one of our assignments in life. There as well, to do what needs doing. Look inward. Don't let the true nature or value of anything elude you. Before long, all existing things will be transformed, to rise like smoke, assuming all things become one, or be dispersed in fragments, like seeing roasted meat and other dishes in front of you, and suddenly realizing, this is a dead fish, a dead bird, a dead pig. Or that this noble vintage is grape juice, and the purple robes are sheep wool dyed with shellfish blood. Or making love, something rubbing against your penis, a brief seizure, and a little cloudy liquid. Perceptions like that, latching onto things and piercing through them, so we see what they really are. That's what we need to do all the time, all through our lives when things lay claim to our trust, to lay them bare and see how pointless they are, to strip away the legend that encrusts them. Pride is a master of deception. When you think you're occupied in the weightiest business, that's when he has you in his spell. Some things are rushing into existence, others out of it. Some of what now exists is already gone. Change and flux constantly remake the world, just as the incessant progression of time remakes eternity. We find ourselves in a river. Which of the things around us should we value when none of them can offer a firm foothold? Like an attachment to a sparrow, we glimpse it and it's gone. And life itself, like the decoration of blood, the drawing in of air. We expel the power of breathing we drew in at birth, just yesterday or the day before, breathing it out like the air we exhale at each moment. Death, the end of sense perception, of being controlled by our emotions, of mental activity, of enslavement to our bodies. Our lives are short. The only rewards of our existence here are an unstained character and unselfish acts. Take Antoninus as your model always, his energy in doing what was rational, his steadiness in any situation, his sense of reverence, his calm expression, his gentleness, his modesty, his eagerness to grasp things, and how he never let things go before he was sure he had examined them thoroughly, understood them perfectly. The way he put up with unfair criticism without returning it, how he couldn't be hurried, how he wouldn't listen to informers, how reliable he was as a judge of character and of actions, not prone to backbiting or cowardice or jealousy or empty rhetoric, content with the basics, in living quarters, bedding, clothes, food, servants. How hard he worked, how much he put up with. His ability to work straight through till dusk because of his simple diet. He didn't even need to relieve himself except at set times. His constancy and reliability as a friend. His tolerance of people who openly questioned his views and his delight at seeing his ideas improved on. His piety, without a trace of superstition, so that when your time comes, your conscience will be as clear as his. Just as the arena and the other spectacles weary you, you've seen them all before, and the repetition grates on your nerves, so too with life. The same things, the same causes on all sides. How much longer?